week.
Thank you.
You know,
Finally.
yeah. We also have Miss Glenda, author of the book In My Own Words. You know, and right before the break, we were talking about her entourage, you know, and her friend, you know, Mr. Trey. You know, he ain't got a last name. You know, just they just call me Trey.
The alias.
Yeah, an alias. You know, for whatever reason, I don't even want to know.
There's his reason.
You
We don't
talk
talk
about airplanes too, bro. You did. You watch them go by. Okay, all right.
That's an art unto itself.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
You know, so we're gonna get a chance to talk to Miss Glenda about her book and have her chime in on some of the things that we say, because she's sitting here. You know, we want to have a female perspective and opinion sometimes. You know, you know, but I gotta break this open. You know, in this week in the media. You know, since I'm only on the air once a week, I have to address this. It's all over social media. It's all over everything. They're talking about the situation with Zimmerman, you know, being not found guilty. And I'm really surprised that America, you know, has reacted with so much surprise, you know, over this situation. You know, they painted this half Mexican dude as a white person. His daddy is a judge. You know, he's in the state of Florida, where the state of Florida still has the blood on their hands from Rosewood, and they acting like, really, you know, they can't believe, you know, that they let this guy off. You know, I'm like, really? Y'all surprised? You know, I was really hoping, because of the Mexican side of the family, that they throw his butt in jail.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, evidently they looked over that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so much, you know, outrage and cry, you know, throughout the country, you know, that, you know, you have to, you know, really look at this for what it's really worth. You know, and I know you and I, you know, we probably will say it like it is, but most people won't. You know, but you know, I mean, the state, they still got the stain of blood on their hand from Rosewood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we forgot about Rosewood. You know, you know what Rosewood is. I know you're old enough to remember the movie, at least, if nothing else.
I remember the movie.
You can talk in the microphone. I mean, you ain't got to be scared. You know, it's okay. Come closer. You got to get closer to the mic. Okay. Yeah, you remember Rosewood, what that incident was?
I remember watching the movie about that.
Yeah.
You know, my whole take on the entire Zimmerman case and the results, the verdict, the way the family is handling the situation, the outcry that everyone is now expressing. It's a very sad state of affair. And Jamie Foxx was on the BET last night, and he made a statement. He said, we cannot be afraid to speak up. We cannot be afraid to speak and say really what's on our mind and what we're feeling. And in saying that, we're all very cautious in what we say about this case. And of course, the outcome. I have served on a jury before, and I my blood pressure went up during those 3 days. And it was really a simple case, but you'll be surprised how people are wavered and how their personal feelings get involved in making the right decision for whoever we're supposed to be supporting, supposed to be doing the right thing for. And each one of us are raised in a different environment, and it's very touchy how they put us all in a room to try to come up with the right thing based on all the information and facts we were just presented. And that's when a person really have to dig deep and and really pull something from within to do the right thing. And lawyers are very intelligent and manipulative people. And it's important that they're able to be flexible and twist things and manipulate facts. And, you know,
Let me ask you, do you agree with the verdict? Do you agree with it?
I think there was an injustice done. And one reason why I say that is because I don't think it was enough of a balanced jury there. What was done will have to, Zimmerman will have to, he has to lay in his own bed at night, and his conscience will catch up with him, period. Anytime someone does harm to another person, you don't rest easy, and let alone when it's the final deed that you have done to a person. You don't rest easy. Your soul does not rest easy. So that's one thing he has to deal with. But we as people, we can't be afraid after all of this. We cannot be afraid to serve as jury members. But at the same time, when we're called to serve, we must do what's right. The 3 days that I was on jury duty, I could not believe how people brought their personal feelings into the situation. It was clear. It was black and white. There was no way they should have even deliberated that long. And it was almost as if I really had to get emotionally involved and contacting each person and just saying, listen, you know, this is right or this is wrong, and this could have been my dad, this could have been my daughter in this situation. We have to do what's right for this gentleman. In this particular case, he did not have enough of his peers. They said you're supposed to be tried by a jury of your peers. I don't think he had enough of his peers, even though we are in a culture where we are all indifferent and yet we still have differences.
So that brings up the question: do you think that Zimmerman could have gotten a different result if the jury would have been in a different, mixture of profile?
First of all, let me say that my heart is out with the Trayvon Martin family.
Mm-hmm.
That is devastating to lose a son in that situation. Having said that, going back to your question, I believe it doesn't matter what jury they had, even a jury of his peers in Zimmerman, it still went down the same way, and I'll tell you why. Because let's say, for example, he was found guilty, and say, for example, he went to life imprisonment. Some politician or some group are going to say, you know what, because that's a landmark case, we can change stand your ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's political.
So it's more than what's behind the scenes.
Right. It's political. It's
right.
a lot of
system was on trial.
A lot of people had their hands
set of presidents, that they find them guilty, then that's gonna, allow the presidents to be on the law.
Right.
And concealed weapons.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Everything is like into play right now, so that one little decision could have affected several other things.
Right.
So let me throw this question out. How do you find justice in a situation like that?
You trust in your jury.
But like you just said, that the system was in question and on trial, not so much the person.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it was not have been Zimmerman, they would have still had to question how this whole thing came about. Because if you remember going back last year, they didn't even want to arrest him. It was just the fact that they had to yield to the pressure of this situation, that they brought even charges in the first place.
Mm.
So the legal system or the law enforcement officials that first came in contact with this case didn't find that there was anything, legal in question.
Right.
He killed him. He was in fear for his life. He killed him.
Right.
And that's where the system, stood in that case in the beginning. So now to go on, fast forward, okay, they went into the history and the background of all the people involved, and now it's a big, media circus.
Whirlwind, yeah.
You know, and I say circus because, you know, they took that case in Florida, and we got cases here in Chicago were just as bad. You know, last year we had over 500 homicides in the city of Chicago, and some of them became, you know, publicly aware of. On the west side of Chicago, they had an off-duty police officer that shot into a crowd of young people, killed an innocent girl. You know, Rakia Boyd, you know, just killed her. She was not doing anything but just standing in the park.
Right.
You know, an off-duty officer was frustrated and aggravated and shot into the crowd. He still never, you know, stood, you know, for that charge.
Right.
Okay. We had a situation in the south suburbs of Chicago where they had a young boy who had disability, you know, autism, and he had a butter knife in his family's house. They called the police for help. They shot and killed the boy. You know, so I mean, there are many situations where they call it a justifiable shooting or a homicide or whatever, and nobody, you know, stands trial or goes, you know, stands accountable for what goes on. It just depends on the circus that goes on around, the media circus, and now it's a travesty, you know, and now it's this, now it's that. I mean, but who determines, you know, which case is more of a travesty than the other? You know, the media, you know.
And, you know, and the media plays a hand in it. Like, for example, what I couldn't stand was they compared it to O.J. Simpson. 2 different trials.
Mm-hmm.
I covered O.J. when I was back at WLS Radio here in Chicago. 2 different trials.
Mm-hmm.
But what they were doing was to put in the mind of people, because as you know, in public opinion, O.J. Simpson is still guilty. So you align him with the Trayvon Martin and make him guilty too.
Right.
Second of all, it was the George Zimmerman trial, not Trayvon Martin trial.
Exactly.
And that's another thing they did too. You have to be smart enough to watch these okey-doke type of situations. Also, the deliberation was so long and it came out on a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, it comes out during the week. The weekend was designed on purpose so the news day could slow down by the time it hit on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
These little tricks the media does all the time.
Right.
And you have to be aware of your surroundings. Also, the fact that, let's deal with Zimmerman, for example. Here's a guy who comes from a family, like I said before, father a judge, mother worked as a clerk in a situation like that there in Florida. And you are the failure, the black sheep of the family. Why? Because you went to police academy and failed. You tried to, become a police officer and failed. Probably anything law officer or anything law that he probably tried to do failed. So what do? You reinvent yourself as this failure wannabe police officer, as this rent-a-cop. You build yourself up in your mind. You're protecting everybody in the neighborhood, things of that nature. And the reinvention becomes dangerous because it's not true.
Right.
You're not a police officer.
Right.
You're not someone that should be respected. Why? Because you're a person that failed. And I can only imagine what his family said, what his mother and father said. They come from, great backgrounds. If you have a son that failed, and some parents let you have it, what the hell is wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
You can't pass the test? And all this psychological type of situations. And plus, they did a masterful job, meaning his Zimmerman trial team, lawyers, of creating doubt. This should have been an open and shut case. They created doubt in the minds of the jury.
Right.
And that's what they did. And also the fact that you got to take into consideration as well. When Zimmerman, when this went down 15 months ago, Zimmerman weighed about 204 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And
kind of bald-headed, and you saw the pictures that, we got so-called beaten up by Trayvon. So you reinvent him. You go have him have a pig out at Baskin Robbins. You have his hair grow out, and then you shave the facial hair off and reinvent him. So when they were in court, when they said my client, and he pointed to him, how is he, meaning Trayvon Martin, how is my client going to override or overpower Trayvon Martin? Look at him.
Right.
It's perception.
But, the lawyers did what they're paid to do. They had a client to get off, and they did what they were paid to do. And I look at, like you said, the mentality of the man, what was his intention at the time? I think that they could have easily gotten a manslaughter conviction against him.
Oh, easily,
well,
because
that's what they're saying. If they decreased the charge, maybe things would have been different, the outcome. You,
Yeah, because premeditated murder, you would have to say that, okay, he left his house with the intention of killing a black person and he ran across trade line. That was not, I don't think that was his intention.
Right.
But, you got to understand that he clearly violated the rules in which he was supposed to be operating in. Do not pursue.
Right.
That was a violation. So
of course.
now he gets into an altercation with a person, whether it was whoever it was, and in that altercation, the other person does not have a weapon.
Correct.
Okay, now if you are trained and I know you've been military trained, the military police.
Mm-hmm.
So the use of deadly force is the last resort in every situation. There are other degrees of force in order to subdue before you get to the use of deadly
force. Combat.
But when you're in a fist fight at the point to where they had escalated to, it becomes a life or death for either one. And when the screaming starts, and this is what the witnesses heard, they're at the point where someone, if they're biting fingers or they're biting ears, it becomes a life or death situation. And maybe at that point, he did fear for his life, but he was the pursuer. He initiated everything.
Contact.
911 said, just leave it alone. And then they said, well, where is he going? That's what they said today. They asked him, he said, there's first, well, where is he going? I don't know. But that doesn't mean go out and follow him.
Right.
You see, he's still, like one of the jury members said, I think he made a poor decision in following him. And so what was your part in making the decision for him?
Right.
Or in this case, yes, you made a poor decision in the outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
the whole thing was poor decision.
Right.
Yeah.
But does that mean he should walk free because he made a poor decision in following him? No.
Yeah.
The jury has to be strong enough to do the right thing.
And I don't think you can lay it all on the jury, because I think
they're the bottom line.
Well,
That's all they read. It's not what the judge thinks.
They were the ones that decided this portion of the case, and I think that it's not going to end here. I think that there's
a civil case.
Yeah, right. And I think the Department of Justice is going to pick it up. There's such a large outcry throughout the country right now, and that the civil disobedience of the community at large, that they have to take this to another level. But my thing is, we shouldn't just take it to another level just based on this case and this case alone. There's so much that cries out for attention,
of course,
in this country that we need to address.
Yeah.
You have some cities that continue operating under the racial profiling. There are some cities that still believe that the police force needs to be operating under martial law.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ridden through Chicago in the late evening hours, man. These guys are out there like in force for real. I'm like, you look like the 60s riot out there sometimes. Police are out there in full, helmets and stuff like that. I'm like, really? In certain communities, I'm serious. I was riding down Cottage Grove last week, which is a street in the south side of Chicago, and I saw so many police. I said, must be something going on. That was just patrol.
On the regular, yeah.
Yeah, they have beefed up patrol so bad.
Throughout the city.
That it's like, wow, are we really in martial law?
Well, pretty much at one point, and let me say this also about the trial real quick, and I get back to our city. But also the other angle that people have to realize too is that the lawyers for Zimmerman, Mark O'Mara and Don West, are heroes in the world of conservatism. Which pretty much, when you watch, and I dare say don't eat before you watch Fox News because you'll throw up. But if you're going to watch it to get a so-called other side, it is so biased, it's so racial, that it provides fodder for conservatives or people who think of that type of ilk. And I try to be fair as I can be as a broadcaster to hear different sides or to go online or meet people that I know who are conservative and just believe that you just can't subscribe, in my opinion. You cannot subscribe to what everybody says. I think at one point I get to a point where say, maybe I should think by myself. But sometimes they were rather, the conservatives have this playbook of issues that they subscribe to. And they follow it, hook, line, and sinker. And they follow it. They don't even think about what they're following. That could go on both sides, but I'm just talking about conservative people now. And what happens is that when you think that way, it's the classic my way or the highway. And we noticed it, the interview that they did with the juror Anderson Cooper on 360 last night. She kept calling him George, as though she knew him. It was very personal, right? Which I took offense to that immediately.
Of course.
And then the fact that you're doing this interview, because I don't care what you say, yes, you're going to write a book.
Everybody.
Come on.
There's a couple of them already said they were going to write a book.
Yeah, you cut the deal already.
This is why I say, if you're going to have a certain person on trial, you need to have an equal amount. And if there are two different cultures or two different types of people that is in trial, or the trial is about, you need to have a mixed jury. Yes, it does make a difference if you have an all-white jury that is going to try or deliberate over one black man's fate, and vice versa. You see what I'm saying? It makes a difference. You will not see a black jury, all jury, deliberate over a white man's fate.
Right.
You won't see that.
And they painted an image. They went out of their way to make sure that they painted an image that he is a white man.
Of course.
Yeah. I got some correspondence from several people over the last couple of days about the image, like you said, of what they painted. This is a respectable member of the community, not a rejected, anything, with an ulterior motive. And they went out of their way to present that. But I mean, once again, there's a lot of hurt feelings. But, I go back to my original statement, this is coming from the state that was responsible and has the blood on their hands for Rosewood. Okay. And Rosewood, they killed as many blacks, destroyed a whole town, black people, which they have yet, to my understanding, apologize for yet. So the mentality of the state is that, so what? We killed, another black person dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that's, really? I mean, why are we surprised, that the state of Florida feels that way about us? I mean, just because y'all went to Disney World, and spent your money, you thought that they was going to like you now?
Yeah. It is not a small world after all. I mean, come on now,
Y'all going to keep going down there spending your money.
That's true.
At Disney, Ascot Center, and, they're going to they'll still shoot your ass dead, okay?
Right, yeah.
And it ain't got to be the police.
No, it could be Mickey Mouse himself. You're walking down, Fantasyland wrong. Let's shoot him in the ass.
Come on now. I mean, come on now. Let's call a spade a spade.
Absolutely.
Let's keep it real. That's what we do around here. Keep it real.
Right.
Y'all went to Disneyland, and then this kid lived there. He can't even get a job at Disneyland.
Right. Disney World,
wherever, world, land, they all the same.
Yes, they are. Right.
And you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
And he lives in the community where they're the largest industry in the state. And I promise you, he probably couldn't even get a job there.
Right.
Okay? He just out one night. Okay? Now, he in a fight.
Yeah.
And just because he whooped the white man's ass and the white man had a gun and shot him dead, they're going to make him the person that's wrong.
Yeah,
whooping the white man's ass.
Yeah.
I posted on my Facebook page, they had in New York a white guy that went on a rant, using the N-word.
Right.
And the black guy knocked his ass straight out. Okay?
Right.
Knocked him flat. They thought he was dead. Okay? Because he was ranting and raving using the N-word.
Right.
So, I mean, he needs to get his ass knocked out.
Yeah.
And then the police was standing around ready. Y'all want to come get this dude? He knocked out on the sidewalk. Yeah. He was drunk because a black dude got his job or caused him not to get it. So he had it in for all black. So how do you know that Zimmerman, didn't think he could take this dude? Because obviously the dude who got knocked out thought he could beat, the black dude face. He was jumping up there until he got the hell. And one punch knockout.
Yeah.
I was like, that's sweet.
Well, I mean, you could be anything in your own mind.
Yeah.
You could be anything.
Yeah.
But then when reality sets in,
yeah. He woke up in the hospital.
he woke up in the hospital. Zimmerman grabbed a gun because reality set in.
Right.
all of a sudden your world will shatter.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go from the mind to reality, and all of a sudden you can't deal.
Right. He realized he was in a damn fight. That kid was whooping his ass.
Exactly right.
For his life.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, Train. I know. Come on, Train. Come on over here, Train. Train talking off the mic. We can't hear a damn thing you saying. So bring your behind on over here. You know you wasn't gonna sit over there in that corner and not. And say, come on. Welcome to the microphone, alias, aka Train, from Chicago. We still don't know what he's running from yet, but he's running from something. He hiding from somebody. Yeah. Now go ahead, bro. Say what you were saying.
I'm trying to figure out what.
Go to the mic. Come to the closer. There you go.
I'm trying to figure out what Trayvon Martin's original crime was. Up there just walking.
He had some Skittles.
He had some Skittles and Twizzlers or something like that.
Yeah. That was his crime.
That was his crime.
It's no different than walking through Walmart and people approaching you and leaving everyone else alone, but because you're who you are, you need. Can I help you? Can I help you? No, you can help them.
That's his crime. That's his crime. Walking wild black.
That's exactly what happened.
We go other places driving while black. They pull you over. You fit the profile. You black behind the wheel.
Right.
This kid was minding his own business. He wasn't on nothing. He wasn't with a gang. He got profiled by half white. I keep saying half white because
so half Hispanic.
Yeah. The other half do count.
Zimmerman. Jewish.
No.
I think it was Peruvian, something like that.
His daddy was a
judge, but I think his mother's Peruvian.
That was working at the courthouse, and they made a baby, and that's what we got on. That was on.
I think his mother's Peruvian, something like that.
Yeah, of course. For some folks.
Yeah.
For some folks. From the state that was responsible for Rosewood. Y'all ain't understanding what I'm saying here. I hope y'all catch this revelation here. They killed Negroes down there in Florida by the townful, okay? And have yet to say, I'm sorry.
And they never will.
Okay?
They never will.
They didn't think it was nothing wrong.
Right. See, there was nothing wrong with exterminating something.
Nothing wrong.
That's like I said off mic. Traditionally and historically, the laws of this country was not designed for us. It never was, and to a lot of degrees never will. Because we were cattle, because we were property. So we weren't a part of the system. All we want to do was make the white man rich and continue to pick cotton and do whatever do to that nature.
And keep going to Disneyland, Disney World.
Well,
Disney. I just say Disney. Keep bringing your money.
Right.
All them billionaires that play basketball, they win the NBA championship or win in the Super Bowl, and the first thing they say, I'm going to Disneyland. But this is the state that's responsible for wiping out a whole town full of black folks.
That's right.
We got to take a pause for the call. You're listening to the Ask Dr. Ron show, and I'm pissed off in the studio, and I got some help being pissed off. Y'all don't go nowhere. Y'all stick around and stay. We're here on the globalnewsforum.com. See you on the other side of the break.
It's News Talk and Real Jazz. globalnewsforum.com.
NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. The Senate has moved to end a 2-year Republican blockade that prevented President Obama's nominee to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau from taking over. Lawmakers by a 71-29 vote today approving the appointment of Richard Cordray. That came minutes after Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said he and GOP leaders were working on a deal aimed at freeing up 7 stalled appointments President Obama's made. Reid saying it's time to end the logjam.
There isn't, as I've indicated, a single objection to the qualifications of any one of these people. And we need to move forward. We need to stop blocking this president and future presidents from having a qualified team that he thinks is what he needs.
President Obama had used a recess appointment to put Cordray in charge of the agency. A broad coalition, including church leaders, environmental activists, and a gun rights group, is challenging the federal government's electronic surveillance program. The lawsuit against the National Security Administration was filed today, as NPR's Joel Rose reports.
There are 18 named plaintiffs in the case, including Greenpeace, CalGuns, and the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Normally, these groups couldn't agree on much of anything, but But the lawsuit contends that their members have all been denied their constitutional right to freedom of association. The suit is being led by the Electronic Frontier Foundation. It is not the first to challenge the government's widespread tracking and storage of Americans' phone records after details of the program were leaked by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden last month. The government contends that its electronic surveillance programs are legal and constitutional. The plaintiffs in the suit hope to challenge those assertions in court. Joel Rose, NPR News.
Prices at the consumer level were up in June, though it appears almost all the rise was a result of higher gas prices. The Labor Department says while its consumer price index rose 0.5% last month, the pressure was mostly because of the pump prices. Brian Westbury's chief economist at First Trust Advisors.
Gasoline prices went up 6.3% in the month of June. They make up a pretty good chunk of the consumer price index, and that was the big driver.
Excluding volatile food and energy costs, consumer prices were much more reined in, rising just 0.2%. Power companies across the Northeast are feeling the heat, with utilities saying so far they have enough electricity to keep the air conditioners going as the mercury hits the 90s and above in a number of major cities. Temperatures are expected to be in the 90s all week in New York. In Washington, D.C., it's expected to be in the upper 90s through this weekend. So far, utilities say they have not had to take any major steps to keep power humming, but are asking consumers to try to conserve power by deferring non-essential power use. Stocks retreated slightly from their recent record highs, in part due to some weaker corporate earnings numbers. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 32 points today, closing at 15,451. The NASDAQ was down 8 points. You're listening to NPR News in Washington. A jury has now been chosen to hear the case of Army Major Nadal Hassan, the man accused of opening fire at Fort Hood, Texas in 2009, killing 13 people and wounding dozens of others. Last of 13 officers who will decide his fate were seated today. Hassan has decided to represent himself at his military court-martial. Hundreds of thousands of Greek workers in both the public and private sectors are on strike over the government's plan to lay off 4,000 people by the end of the year and thousands more next year. John Saropoulos is in Athens, where the city's motorcycle cops were among those who took to the streets today to protest.
This is the sound of 3,500 jobs going down the drain. That's how many municipal police across the country are to be fired as their institution is abolished. A few may find their way into national police jobs, but the fact is that the government is cutting down the state. 150,000 must go over 3 years. Most will be retired, but tens of thousands will be fired. The opening salvo came last month. The government has begun to replace public television with a slimmer broadcaster, shedding hundreds of jobs. To the unions, the message is clear, but their diminishing power to arrest these developments is apparent. Only some 15,000 people marched on the streets in protest. Transport was barely affected, and in much of the city centre, life carried on very much as usual. For NPR News, I'm John Saropoulos in Athens.
Known as one of the old-school Mississippi bluesmen who taught himself to play at the age of 58, James Lewis Carter T-Model Ford has died at his home in Greenville today. County Medical Examiner reporting Ford died this morning due to respiratory failure. Ford's exact age isn't clear. It's believed he was born in 1924, which would have made him 89 this year. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News.
Remember when your neighbor found us naked in the car, and the time some outdoor action got us kicked out of the park? Getting frisky in the dark, I gave your eye a poke. I think the dog is also in the bed. Do I smell smoke? You and me, we never give up. You and me, we never ever give up. Getting hot and heavy with the whipped cream that we bought. Undressing in the kitchen and then getting caught. So many things can go wrong, but we still can get it right. You and me, we're not gonna give up tonight.
You didn't give up on sex. Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Visit bedsider.org to compare all the choices and put the bogus myths to bed at bedsider.org.
Boy, we got options tonight.
Brought to you by Bedsider.
GlobalNewsForum.com. Engage in the community and informing the world. Your source for news 24 hours a day, every day. GlobalNewsForum.com. A Future Vision entertainment station. You're listening to Ask Dr. Ron on GlobalNewsForum.com. And now, back to Dr. Ron.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Dr. Ron Show. I'm your host, Ron Ford. We're here on the globalnewsforum.com. And I tell you, boy, this conversation has been rolling on even through the news break. Here in the studio, we've got Mr. Chris Bass, my brother in radio, Baseline, from here on Global News. And I tell you, Mayhem, a.k.a. Mayhem, he's been expressing himself. We got A-Train, is it train or just train? A-Train, was sitting on the sideline, but he got stirred with this conversation too, which is rightfully so. Anybody black gonna get stirred. We got Miss Glenda, book author of the book In My Own Words, retired paratrooper. She's written a book about her life experiences and what she's doing now. We're going to talk about her book before the show is over with. But she's been sharing, and I tell you, the conversation all through the studio, all through the CSO office, all in the tech. I mean, we got them stirred up. This is definitely a serious topic of controversy. And before we get back to it, we're talking about, the verdict that took place in Florida. Even the interns is upset. She's standing up, and she ain't stand up in 5 shows. Now she paying attention. I don't know what happened, boy. This has got everybody upset. But I got to encourage everybody to go over to my website, ask-dr-ron.com. That's askdrron.com. And when you get over there, you're going to find my website with a lot of information on it. You'll find my calendar of events. You'll find places where you can make contributions. You got places where you can leave comments, criticisms. If you like what we're doing here on the Ask Dr. Ron Show, please tell us about it. If you don't like it, tell us about that too. If you have show ideas or guests you'd like to recommend, there's a place on the site to do that. We have a whole list of sponsors over there. Port Again Sam, my main man, been with me for several years. Got the best wine that you can run across from anywhere around the world. He'll bring it to your door. He'll deliver it to you. He'll do a wine tasting with you. Sam got it. All I can say is call him up, 708-474-1744. Tell him you heard about it on the Ask Dr. Ron Show. We also have ADT over there. ADT has got a special promotion going on where you can get an alarm system, protect your family, protect your property. You can give them a click on the website or right on the ADT. They'll come on out and they'll give you a special deal because of the Ask Dr. Ron Show. Or you can call them 800-699-9238. Give them promotional code A as in Apple 105373. And just tell them, that you want to get that promotion, and they'll hook you right on up. Also on my website, we got Lee's Catering. They're going to be in the studio with us towards the end of the month. They're going to be bringing us some food. I know everybody want to come back. I see y'all licking y'all chops. Y'all have to talk to me. I might let y'all come back and holler at a brother on that day that they're here. Also we have Blueberry Go-Go. Please go over, click on the tab, look at the video. It's blueberries with a purpose. Buy the blueberries, support the cause, get these kids out of the inner city. I know you parents, y'all understand when you get to send your kids away for 10 hours a day. I know y'all know how that works. That's a field trip for the parent, just like it is for the kids. They'll learn how to blueberry farming and grow and go. They'll come back with a skill and a trade. And that's something good, for an inner city program that's going on around the Chicagoland area right now. And if you're outside of Chicago, you can still buy the blueberries and support the cause. Donate the blueberries to Dr. Ron. I'll eat them. I ain't got no problem. You buy the berries, I'll eat them. Okay? So you can do that to support Blueberry Go-Go. Check them out on the website. We've got worthwhile stuff going on. I think I covered everybody. Port Again Sam. We got Lee's Candy. That's everybody. So who? Oh, Viridian. My main people, Viridian. I'm so glad. Viridian is helping people save money on their electric bill, especially as hot as it is. You're going to run your electricity all this time. You better get over there and check it out. They're giving up the best rates in town. Save yourself some money on your electric bill. That's all you got to do. Is go over there, Viridian. Just click on it. Yeah, Viridia. Go to my website, dr-rn.com, you will see right on there a Veridian logo. Click on it, take you right to the website, take your electric bill, sign up. You'll save some money. Thank you. Right on for that. It's good to have people around you that know what's going on, because I tell you, well, I'm so agitated about this situation, in Florida, and yeah, we've been protesting because we got a history of protests. We know how to go around, march, and raise hell, when we think somebody did something wrong, and then 15 minutes from now we will forget why we was marching, and like I was explaining to Miss Glenda on the break, because everybody's been talking about it on the break. Ain't nobody stopped talking. After we went to break, everybody kept talking. That she's saying it's the jury, but at the end of the day, the jury did what they was told to do. They did what they were compelled to do. Okay, even that no order was issued. Well, you got to vote this way because our whole system is on trial here. They were compelled, to bring the verdict in that they brought in. Otherwise, they would not have done it. Okay.
Well, when you're sitting with a group of jury, when you're sitting with a group of jury members that have that perception that he's already innocent, right, even though regardless to what was presented, the facts still remain the same, and that's where common sense really has to come into play when jury members are actually deliberating. You still have to use common sense. Common sense was he pursued this person and he pursued it against what they recommended. He had a weapon. It's almost like, if he acts like a duck, he quacks like a duck, what is it? It's a duck.
But once again, they voted on a system, on a, stand your ground. That's what was supposedly on trial. The ability to be able to stand your ground and protect yourself in that scenario, and that was his defense that he used. It was brought to my attention on the break that they had another case in Florida. Now, to show you how fair or unfair the justice system was, there was a black man that tried to use that same defense, after killing someone, and they threw his behind in jail. I was standing my ground, 20 years.
Because it all depends
he didn't have the legal team there.
Who's actually doing the deliberation.
Right, right.
They find the verdict based on what's convenient at the time. It depends on who's doing the deliberation.
They had a lot of people throw a lot of money into the Zimmerman Defense Fund. That even came up early, I believe, in the year last year when he was out on bond and he didn't disclose the amount of money that had been contributed to his legal fund.
Yeah.
And the legal defense fund was such a large amount of money that he can afford to buy, the white Johnny Cochran. To be able to go in there, if it don't fit, you must acquit, type defense or whatever it was, they put Trayvon on trial, and then Trayvon was the victim. Trayvon being a victim and the type of person that he was, they did everything in their power to try and, make him the profile of a typical black person that's looking for trouble.
Right.
Now I'm gonna say this. I got an email over the weekend, and I thought it was so profound. Dr. Hunt sent this to me, and he's been on the show many times before. And he said that this Trayvon trial focused on the profile or the image of a young black person. So, when you look at the image that the media and the world portrays of an American young black person, it's not that favorable. I mean, when you start looking at hoodies and pants down and things like that, that is a predominant image. They don't see the image of like what we have in the studio. When I look across the table, I see some prominent brothers, gray hair. Well, maybe not you ain't got no hair, but gray hair, and distinguished looking, and you don't look like you about no foolishness. Your pants is pulled up, even though they look like you just walked off a golf course, but you still look like a person that's about business, and our image of our young people is not the same type of image. You know, you see them, their pants is down, they can't hardly walk. They can't talk. You know, they cussing and fussing, calling bitches and hoes. You know, and then they, you know, their image that they're projecting, you know, is not that of a positive. Now we have some brothers that go to college, they got on ties, they go Greek. You know, they teach them how to, you know, project themselves and speak. You know, they master the King's English. You know, and that's a more preferred image of a professional.
More acceptable.
Yeah, of a professional, you know, and then the two different type of images, you know, they don't mix, you know. So when you look at what kind of went on based on what Dr. Hunt was saying, is that they put the image, the negative image of a young black person on trial. I mean, you know, and that's true because that's, you know, all, even now when you look on social media, Facebook, people are saluting by putting on a hoodie. It's okay to wear a hoodie, but should that be our primary image?
Well, no, and I think once again, it's like when I was at home watching the trial go down and saw the verdict, heard it, I had a friend of mine call me up and she asked me, where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. So the question becomes, I said, it's up to us individually and collectively to learn from this moment and go forward. Now, that means, for example, if I have a version, the King James Version of the Bible, and I read it, and you have the exact same Bible, you might get something out of it, and I might get something out of it. It's two different versions of it. So again, the verdict that went down this past Saturday night, my vision could be different from your vision. You know, people go out and react to be violent or be peaceful, which the demonstrations have been very good. I must applaud them for that. What does it mean to you individually, and then where do you go from there?
I like that question.
You know, I think it's very profound and it's very deep because we're talking about the future of our people and people in general. They, meaning Zimmerman's people, the defense, the lawyers, did a great job at the following. Once again, creating doubt that this could have been a scuffle, and did a great job at painting Trayvon Martin as the antagonist.
That's exactly what they
It's
did.
perception.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, a lawyer told me this years ago. It's not about the truth, it's what you can prove in court.
Exactly.
So they got the paychecks. I predict O'Mara and West will get talk shows or book deals, the whole nine.
Multi-million-dollar
Of course, because they're rewarded for this type of situation.
They'll be heroes.
It's like they are heroes, you know, in the eyes of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be smart in this, and this came to mind too for me. I'm all for people who want to take their business and sell it. That's what makes this country great, is capitalization. But what if, for example, we needed money and we went to a Barry Gorey who still owned Motown?
He don't own Motown.
That's my point. Yeah. That's my point. You know, he sold it off.
Long time
ago, right. It's on Broadway now.
Right.
How's it going to help us?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's if you want to be a part of something. Once again, look at this of this perspective. If Motown was really the music that brought people together in the civil rights movement in the 60s, I guess if I was Barry Gordy, I would feel some sort of involvement, some sort of responsibility. If people keep saying that, like all over the place, I go to different places all over the country, man, I heard your music all the time, I would feel responsible. But if there's no capital from us to work from, then it's all about the grassroots movement and stuff like that. And no offense, we need more leaders besides Jesse Jackson and Reverend Al Sharpton. No offense.
They leaders?
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm just asking.
I'm just saying. You know,
I know they do a lot of press, but I didn't know they was leaders.
I'm just saying, somebody's following them. You know. Well, yeah, don't get me wrong. It's great, but we don't look for the future. What are the future leaders that might come forward? Well, we don't have that.
Yeah, and
to a degree.
To address that, I think that there's a young brother that's coming up, man, that a lot of people are gravitating to. Lupe Fiasco.
Okay.
You know, he did a graduation a couple of weeks ago at Chicago State,
right,
where he addressed a multitude of black men that had just graduated from Chicago schools, and his whole dialogue was, "Congratulations, you have now just graduated with from the educational system in Chicago, which is the lowest in the world. You know, you do not have a 12th grade education. You know, your education ain't worth nothing right at this moment. You know, and he called a spade a spade. You know, and there are young people that are coming out with the ability to be able to say these kind of things that are the truth, because you know, here in Chicago, that's a big issue too. You know, that they close 80% of the schools in the black community, when we only make up 15% of the population in the educational system. So why didn't they split that up over a wider variety because the education on the other side of town is better than our education. And we've accepted for so many decades, you know, and got comfortable with what they're teaching us that we don't even realize it is substandard.
Right. And then you have the ability of people who say the following: why should we continue schools on the South Side when they're over there killing each other in the first place?
Right, you know, but people are fighting because it's theirs.
Right.
You know, it took us so long to get a school, and now you're going to take it away from
them. Of course.
But what you got ain't worth fighting for. You know, and a lot of times we just get caught up in the emotion of it.
And don't think it through.
Yeah, you know, and I like the other thing that you said, you know, where do we go from here? You know, and I think that with the outcry, it should be an embracing of our young people. You know, express yourself. You know, say that, I don't like what just happened to this young black person. So how many lives can I save?
Right.
How many people can I embrace? Because it becomes personal. All right. You know, when they went to the Million Man March in Washington, D.C., you know, a few years ago, they empowered people to go back to their community and take what they had got at the Million Man March and begin to reach out in their community.
Right.
And grab hold of as many people and share what they had to offer, what they gathered. Each one reach one. And that's a principle.
They're supposed to have a march the 24th of August down in Washington about this.
Each one needs to reach one. You know, so if we as men, you know, nothing against the sisters, you know, because the sisters have been doing the best job that they can, you know, but each one of us as men try and reach out and grab a hold of as many men as we can and begin to teach them how to look professional, how to pull their pants up, how to speak intelligently, then we may be able to not have as much conflict where we're killing each other or having other people trying to kill us because we're not communicating properly.
Right.
Because, I mean, you know, if you think about it, you know, when we get into conflict, you know, we don't always handle ourselves properly, young people. You know, because they don't know how, you know, and the march that they're doing, do we need another march? Really?
Yeah, that's a question that came up recently to me too.
Do we need another march? I mean, you know, even though they got one,
well, my feet
that's a publicity stunt.
For one thing,
that just gives, you know,
I got bunions.
Pacify the situation.
No, I don't even think it's going to do that. It's just another publicity stunt. You know, I mean, you're going to get a whole bunch of people that you're going to have come out there want to be seen by 1 million people, you know, in Washington or wherever. You know, and they're going to say this, and they're going to say that, they're going to stir the crowd, and where they're going to go and what they're going to do afterwards. If you don't put a plan in place, you know, I'm sorry, you got to have a plan. You know, you got to be able to have something once you leave the march that you got physically in your hand that I can take to A-Train and say, A-Train, we need to do this. Okay, and A-Train can look at me and say, okay, I like this. You know, I can do this. Right. You know, you don't want to make it hard. You want it to be simple. Grab a kid. Work with that kid. A kid. You ain't got to take the whole neighborhood. If you can handle the whole neighborhood, then that's fine. But if you can't handle the whole neighborhood, grab a kid. Save a life. You know what I'm saying? We got too many people dying in the Chicagoland area. Not just in Florida and all the other major cities, New York. Yeah, they're dying everywhere. But what do we do? Like you said, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we mad. Yeah, we upset. So what do we do?
And you have to find people who are like-minded, same spirit, and want to do something, or just do something individually. Because you cannot rely on all these leaders. Now, I just named a couple. I don't know them personally, and I don't know if I want to. But the fact remains is that there's too many people in bed with other people. That's the reason why nothing gets done. Because
it starts in the home.
Right. Oh, it always starts from home. But from the standpoint of, if I go to a so-called leader in the community and he or she is in bed with the mayor, or the mayor's in bed with the other politicians.
It's conflict of interest.
Nothing gets done.
Right.
Nothing. You know, and that's the lack of progress. That's why I said, if you see something that hits you from watching the trial, then you individually go out and do something. It was no more than seeing somebody on your block and talking to them. And what we said about the each one teach one. Start with one person.
Right.
Start with one, because is one person go to one person, then one person go to another person, and then hopefully a part or masses will eventually pick up the message. The ones who want to pick it up.
And you know, this whole thing about perception, how they perceive the young black man. Of course, he's wearing his pants down low, sometimes below the cheeks. I see them getting as far as almost to the knees. Some of this, what they consider style, is keeping them from doing the right thing and pulling them up. But common sense have got to play in somewhere. Where do dressing for success starts kicking in? Where do I do this maybe, at a party versus walking down the street? They see the hip hoppers doing it. They're successful. How's it working for them and not for me?
Right.
So it's a conflict of interest going on there where they think it's okay. Plus it's in style. So what do we really do? They're kind of confused.
Right. Yeah, their image of success is that of something that perpetuates violence. And looking at me without, there's a different, I look at, I did a old school hip hop show a couple of weeks ago, and some of these guys that got old, and I heard some of the guys that had been familiar with them and followed their careers, say they wasn't always cool. They were stupid at one time. Now that they got older, they have a different, mentality because they got kids.
Exactly. They have responsibility.
They don't want their kids doing what they did.
Right.
Being thugs or,
You know what I find kind of interesting? I see some of the guys, even some of the older guys, they just think that tight wearing pants up around your waist is really, it's really very old fashioned. And it kind of is. But what I kind of find, wait a minute. Now, of course, the older men, the more distinguished guys, don't get me wrong, I like that look. And that is very, very, very sexy to look at, a guy like that. So but the younger guys, if they really want to find a way to incorporate that hip hop kind of, in up-to-date look, I've seen them wear their pants a little low like that, but they also have long T-shirts to cover where you don't have any underwear exposed. And that's the key. No underwear. We don't want to see any underwear,
So they
can incorporate that look.
Their knees ain't sexy?
Not unless you're in the bedroom.
Okay. So, but men need to hear that. These young guys need to hear that. It ain't sexy.
It's not sexy. Not seeing your butt cheeks like that, your Fruit of the Looms, and then, no. That's nasty. That's real nasty.
See, they need to hear that because, guys respond to what's sexy.
Well, sexy is if they want to wear their pants a little low like that, but have that T-shirt extra long where it covers it up. I've seen them like that, and I'd be like, you know what? Makes me wonder what kind of underwear he has. When I gotta see, it's just like a woman. When you look at a woman, you don't really necessarily want to see everything, do you?
So you
want a little bit of imagination stuff going on. It's the same way with us women. We don't want to see all your butt cheeks like that in your underwear, which normally is dirty.
Wait a minute. I like looking at women's butt cheeks now. Leave the women's butt cheeks alone.
No, you're gonna say that's a nasty woman.
No, I'm not.
You're gonna say that to your buddy.
What's your number?
That's a nasty woman. I think I'll get it anyway, and then I'm gonna let it go. But same thing. We don't want to see it.
Look, I want to know what's your number. Butt cheeks is saying hello. Hey, baby, I'm gonna holler back.
But I do think that can be a solution for the pants hanging so low. Just get a nice long T-shirt to cover it up.
I got to take another pause for the cause, y'all. I'm sorry. We done went overtime here on the break. Look, you're listening to the Ask Dr. Ron show. We got a heated discussion going on, and we still ain't talked about this girl book yet. Y'all don't go nowhere. Y'all come back. You're listening to the Ask Dr. Ron show. I'm your host, Ron Ford. We're here on the Global News Forum. See you on the other side of the break.
and real jazz. GlobalNewsForum.com.
Thanks for asking, but I'd rather not send you nude pictures. I'm camera shy. I already said no. It's against my religion. I'm giving my dog a bath. You can have pictures of that. Pressure gives me hives. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. Hold on, let me ask my mom. Sorry, my webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. Unfortunately, I just had my clothes surgically attached to my body. If they got out, I might never be president. I'm already naked, under my clothes. Not even if you were all three Jonas Brothers. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. The more you ask, the less I want to. You're not the boss of me. Nudity makes me vomit. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Blue is my favorite color. What's yours? What's yours? Red is my favorite color. What's yours? What's yours?
Well, yeller, sweller, for this little feller.
And me, I'm keen on green. So what's your favorite color? Tell us, please.
Kids will spend 20 minutes listening to songs like
What's
this.
your favorite color? Tell us, please. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite?
How about 2 minutes to brush their teeth? Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives and the Ad Council.
Right now, nearly 30% of U.S. students aren't finishing high school. In many places, it's even higher than that. And fixing it is a responsibility that we all share. This is President Obama, and I urge everyone to take responsibility for encouraging the high school students in your communities, to support them, challenge them, and do whatever it takes to help them make it through.
Do your part by going to boostup.org and giving a student the boost that's needed to make it to graduation. A message from the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Is GlobalNewsForum.com. You're listening to Ask Dr. Ron on GlobalNewsForum.com. And now, back to Dr. Ron.
Heated discussion here in the studio, boy. I tell you, we've evolved. We started talking about still hanging on the profile. You know, what the profile of the black person or the young people should be. You're listening to the Ask Dr. Ron Show. I'm your host, Ron Ford. We're here on the Global News Forum. And I tell you, boy, this whole show today, if you just got here, you late. You missed out on a heck of a conversation. You know, they got me stirred up. I didn't ban all Disneyland and Disney World. I'm like, damn them all, you know. They killed up Rosewood, you know. So I'm just kind of, still perturbed about that. That was back in the early 1900s. If you don't know, you need to go rent that movie and see what happened. And they had interviews with some of the survivors of Rosewood, and they just like, white folks ain't no good. I don't care. They just ain't no good. And they rightfully so. Still in the studio with me, I got my brother in radio, Mr. Chris Bass from Baseline, a.k.a. Mayhem. We got A-Train on the microphone. He done came all the way off. He was a groupie. He was just hanging out. Now he on the air,
Thank you for having me.
We got Miss Glenda. Miss Glenda is so passionate about what's sexy and what's not, and I like that, passionate woman. She was able to say, no, that don't look good. She said, on the break, that she liked to wonder if a man got on boxers or briefs, She said, I like to use my imagination. I don't need to see it for show. I'll wait till it's the right time to see it, and she's also a book author. She wrote the book In My Own Words. I mean, we got this last segment. We've been talking about, so much of what's been going on in the mainstream media today. And I like what everybody has had to say on the show today. And I thank you all for being free enough to be able to talk about it. And that's what we do over here at the Global News Forum. We let freedom and reality and what our truth and what our feelings come true. And I think that's what our listeners like here and global news that, we're able to, have that freedom to be able to talk about what we talk about. And one of the things that Chris said earlier, some of the things that he said, is that what do we do next? And I like, people to think about that question. I mean, what we may come up with might not be the right answer for you, but you think about what's the right answer for you. You go inside yourself and find out what you feel would be the next step that you should take for you and your family and you and your community, and what may work, save some lives, save a life, be an example, let your life experience be something that somebody can look up to and look forward to and say, okay, I heard an A train in my life, say this, and it makes sense. I heard of Chris Bass in my life, and it makes sense. I heard of Dr. Ron in my life, and it makes sense. And I can do this, and I can operate, on this premise. I heard of Glenda, Dugar. I read her book, and it made sense, and I can go forward and apply some of these things. When we were on the show with Rick last week, the question came up, about her book, whether she would recommend the military to anybody. And I've been in the military, so I didn't stay long. I was in the Navy, so we was all players, so you was jumping out of airplanes. We was waiting on y'all to get back on the ground. She'd be down after a while, but
I have patience.
Yeah, and I like the idea that the military is there as an option. Some people need 3 hots and a cot, and the possibility of an education and the chance to see the world, and because if you don't never leave outside of your community where you're at, you won't know what the world holds or what the world can present for you. And some people don't need to come back home. They need to stay gone, and some people do. Just like college. When you go to college, people don't always come back home. They get to places and they find out that, oh, I like Atlanta. I like, Tennessee. I like Mississippi, and they stay there.
I like Europe.
And there you go. I was just trying to keep it local because they may not, go to school in Europe, But in the military, you can go any place in the world. Because I told them I was in the Navy. One of the reasons why I joined the Navy because I knew they had bases in Hawaii. I'm like,
was everybody dream wish?
Yeah, I know. They didn't send me over there though. No, they sent me to Florida, man. They sent me to Florida, Orlando. I was mad as hell. I was down there with all the women on that base, and they talking about you better stop looking at them. You get in trouble. I'm like, please. That's what I do. Look at women. But anyway. You being a female in the military, I got to ask this question. How did you feel? Because at the time you went in, because I know, it was a long time ago, and I'm telling on you now, it was a long time ago.
It was some time ago.
And they did not really appreciate women being in the military. So how were you received, and how did you overcome? Because you were the police, the military police, jumped out of airplane. You was doing the same thing the men was doing. So you kind of
the social outcast.
She was a social outcast.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that. First of all, thanks again for letting me come back on your show, or a first time. But you were on the last show with another radio host, and it was something that he said in one of his previous shows. It's not what you're called, it's what you're answered to. And I had to have that type of mentality. I didn't even know that I had that mentality, but I was raised to be to feel independent and to feel like I was just as special as the next person. And these kids need to somehow embrace that thought that they are special. Each one of us are special. And there is a purpose for each and every one of us. So me going into the military, I didn't really think that we were that few. But and going through some of the courses, I realized, it was only a handful of us compared to the large number of men. And we did make a difference. They thought we hindered in some of the facilities that they had to make provisions for us. But we all adapted.
You didn't get a chance to hang out with all the guys?
I never lived in in the same barracks with them per se. We always had our own little pup
So what you
tents.
saying? They made a special place for y'all?
We had our own special place.
Wow.
We had pup tents.
So I thought that, if you wanted to be in the military, you had to hang out with the guys, live with the guys, shower with the guys.
No, that's G.I. Jane. She had to do all that. But, we had to really, had to train with them. We could not train differently as we went through training. At first, the female push-ups were different, but they made us start doing male push-ups.
Okay, now what era are you talking about? What war was going on in between?
Well, actually, it was after Vietnam.
Okay,
and the Women's Army Corps was just dismanned. It was, the Women's Army Corps was between 1945 and 1978, and I was just coming in 1978.
Okay, so in 78, that's when they started looking at women as pliable, equal to be a part of
same uniform.
Yeah.
Before we wore the mint green and the little funny hats, and the men wore the men uniform. The fatigues they called them.
In the secretarial pool and in the hospital.
They did the women things, right? The women thing
in the kitchen.
That's right.
Wash the dishes and. So then y'all started
make
really
the
being real soldiers,
they were wax.
Real soldiers.
We became real soldiers, part of the guys.
And being part of that original academy of women that paved the road for today's soldier, I mean, that makes you a pioneer.
I came in right at the tail end of the wax, where they were just this man. Actually, in my basic training, they gave me some of the badges that the wax wore.
Okay.
And that was an honor to have received something like that. It's funny because we actually meet once a year, really old wax, and some of those new girls, and we actually have a center that we attend, and we actually have tea and cucumber sandwiches. So we're still girls. Nothing has changed. We just serve. We're just as dedicated.
Wow.
We believe in the duty, the honor, and all those things.
Well, I applaud you because I know that wasn't easy, and I know that the mentality for a female in the military, and then you had a double whammy. You was black and a female because they didn't like blacks and they didn't like female. So for you to endure and stay 20 years, you got some. Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but I mean, I'll go with that one.
You have to own it. You have to own it, and it's just like any walks of life, any type of job. Once you present yourself as not only being part of the team, but being able to pull your load, it's all gravy then.
Yeah.
They will support you
I know
welcome
you. There are some people that took the easy road. They gained rank by hanging out with other officers and slept their way to the top. So I didn't know that had to struggle their way to the top. But I know.
And those girls normally didn't last long.
Oh yeah.
No, they normally didn't last long.
Okay.
It was funny. I was on Oprah Winfrey's show, and there was 5 girls on the show some time ago, and they were asking Oprah to help them get a congressional relook because they were all kicked out of the military, and most of them were supposed to be officers. They literally had that silver spoon in their mouth, and they didn't know how to handle it. And
they could have got promoted real quick.
I kind of really didn't feel for them. Because I knew that if they couldn't make 3 years and I made 20, I knew some of the mistakes they made.
Yeah.
One was actually at a party with all males. Some things you just don't do, just like in today's society. You just don't. You have to use common sense. That's what life is about. Common sense.
I know military life because I used to hang out with a lot of guys. Like I said, in the Navy, we was all players. We had a different agenda. We used to tell them, sailors on dry land, beware.
When you just love that one female at a party with one too many drinks, you just don't want to be that kind of girl. You don't want to be the girl.
They line up because we had sharp uniform, So
you guys were sharp, but the Marines were sharp too.
Yeah, but they get killed quick.
They party hard
because they know they might not be here. But I love it, because I know you got a double whammy. You had being black during the 70s, you know, and then you had being a female during the 70s in the military, and it makes no difference what state you were in. They were just as prejudiced. You know, they hated you just as bad, you know, because it was a lot of that. You know, military towns are a special animal altogether. You know, when you go to a military town, you know it. You know, they serve them, and they treat them, differently than just regular civilians. You know, and
you know that's kind of funny though. When you start talking about military towns, you start talking about military units. People have a perception that the racism was really heavy. When I came in, things that I don't know if someone put the word out, if the president put the word out that these women will be respected, they won't be touched, because if a woman got into a situation, she literally put herself into a situation. But if you use good common sense and you were in when you're supposed to be in, you weren't at the wrong place at the right time, then it was good. You know, but these towns, they knew that the military, if they were closely situated, that was their bread and butter.
Right.
They didn't really dislike the military. It gave them jobs.
They catered to them.
They catered to us.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as a unit, you know, if the female can pull her load, the guys respect you as
I mean, because
one
you're looking
of
at a female
them.
in uniform, you know, I mean, you start thinking, you know,
And you know,
yeah, you know, I could be on duty with her.
You get that nice starch uniform, and you know, we have all the curves. Everything starts working in the right place, and you hold your own. You carry yourself like a woman, but you still you're a soldier at the same time.
Right.
So you know, it is great for anyone to venture.
All right, now look, where can they find your book at?
You can find my book at Xlibris. XLIBRIS.com. Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. But Xlibris is your best route. That is the publisher.
You have your own website?
I do. And you can find me at Glenda.Dugar at att.net. In my own words, it's a short, maybe 2.5 hour read. The publishers think it was skillfully written, very concise, informative, and just a must read.
You think she's proud of her book?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said that like, I'm proud of
She
my
was
stuff.
glowing too when she said
I know. Yeah, I'm like, you know, hey, that's from a person that jump out of airplane.
Of course, naturally.
I would just want to, you know, if I didn't have the book already, I would want to get it just so I can figure out what it felt like to jump out of airplane.
Well, you know, I thought it was.
Tell them, make them read it.
Well, you know what? I told my daughter. my daughter went to the barbecue at the White House on the 4th of July. She's in the Air Force, and I said, Stacy, make sure Obama gets a copy of my book. And so she texted me that morning, and she said, he's eating right now. And then she said, I don't know if I'll be able to give it to him. And I said, well, just leave it on the lawn. Someone will pick it up. But she was able to give it to Michelle.
It was a bomb or something, you know. They don't leave stuff around at the lawn. Right? Look, she'd have got thrown in jail. You know, her fingerprints all over that book. Why you leave this book on the ground? What's in it? Anthrax. You know? You can't just leave. That's a security risk. You know, you better make sure you put it in somebody's hand.
Yeah, it was put in the publisher's hands.
So.
The publicist's hands and given it to Michelle. So I'm very happy about that. It's in the White House.
Well, I'm glad that you came on my show. I know you was on Rick's show, Sports and More, which comes on here on Global News Forum later on this evening. And, you know, I found you very interesting. You know,
thank you.
Anybody
I enjoyed
that jump out of a perfectly good airplane, you got to have something else to them, you know.
Well, read about it. It's in the book, just how that went for me, too.
Yeah. Did you put any dirt in there? I want to hear about the parties afterwards. You know, after y'all got back on the ground and y'all was hanging out. You know, where's the best city to party in Europe? I want to hear about all that kind of stuff.
I have some stuff in there. Europe visits.
What was your favorite city?
You know, I love Stuttgart, Germany.
Germany?
Stuttgart, Germany is a very nice, clean partying. A lot of stars go there. A lot of singers go there and have a good time.
See, so people that don't have any clear career path, there's an opportunity that you can join a branch of the military and wind up in Stuttgart, Germany.
Partying with the stars.
You know, because
Jumping out of planes.
Miss Glenda said it's cool over there. You know, I take her word for I ain't never make it a job.
Anywhere in Europe is cool, to be honest with you. But that's the thing about my book. It's not just the military. I did 20 years, but you're right. If you don't have a clear path or ideal or vision on what you should do, you know, neither did I. But I just took one day at a time and I started setting goals for myself. And then you start trying to make those goals, make them reality. And before you know it, one thing will lead to another. A lot of kids don't know where to begin, where to start. Their parents not saying the right thing. They're tired of listening to what they're saying. So it's like they listen to the street. But guess what? You know deep down inside the street isn't what you need to be listening to, or your friend that stays into trouble. You got to be strong. All of us have to be strong to do the right thing. It's called the hard right instead of the easy wrong. You know, the jurors should have did the hard. They should have done the right thing, and it's hard sometimes. But that's what we're here. That was their duty to do right by him. Everything was clear cut. So I point things out like that in my book. You know, what God has given us. He's given us free will to make the right choices, and we have to do that because you know what? We will pay in the end.
Oh yeah, because you know what? God got the final say so. He ain't got off with nothing. You know, because he still got to face God's justice. You know, even though he might have got off talking about Zimmerman now. You know, with the Florida justice system. But, you know, like you said earlier, you know, he got to sleep at night or not sleep at night.
That's
right. Based on what he did. You know, yeah, he might have got off based on his legal team doing their job and what they got paid to do. But, you know, hey, hell got a place for him.
There you go.
You know, so.
And if that's any consolation, any consolation, know that you still have to do what's right in your heart. My book talks about that. Trusting in yourself, believing in God, and just start making some goals for yourself. And if you see someone going down the wrong path, be strong enough to take that other path. And it's not just the 20 years in the military. I got out and then I became a registered nurse, a physical therapist. So it's life after the military. Right. It's just life.
Right. You made healthy decisions for yourself. And people will be at that threshold where they can do the same thing for themselves. So get the book, In My Own Words, Miss Glenda. If you get in touch with her, I'm sure she'll sign it for you. Where you going? You got a book signing coming up somewhere?
You know, we're supposed, right now I'm at some of the VAs. Okay. And,
well, they'll find
but if you go on my internet and address me that way, I can always get a copy to you.
Yeah, I'm going to become a fan of yours because I want to.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
I'm going to show up at the VA. Have you seen her? Yeah.
They go, yes, we've seen her.
There you go. Me and A-Train will be sitting up there.
I got room for one more.
Look, me and A-Train will be sitting there together. You know, what y'all doing over here? We her entourage. You know. She gonna sign your book in a minute. There you go. Chris, what you got coming up? Anything good?
No.
Nope. Okay. You gonna hang out with me when Lee's Catering come?
Yeah, that's when I come back.
Okay.
Now, what's the date for that? So
the last Tuesday of this month.
Okay. Didn't know you have a calendar on you and tell me?
No. I'll call you.
Okay, please do.
Yeah. So you just have to, stay close. Don't change your number.
I don't want you to lie to me anymore.
Don't change your number. That's all I got to say.
Don't lie.
Hey, Train, I know I won't see you no more till Glenda come around. You know, you might come. You might come.
The ribs come.
The wine, right?
I didn't know you had a problem, bro. You want to come around? Call Sam. That's all I'm gonna say. Call Sam. Sam is the one. Sam is the one that sets up the wine tasting, not Dr. Ron.
That's what I tell him.
Dr. Ron don't do the wine tasting. Y'all need to call Sam. Tell Sam, I need to come see you. You know, he don't have a problem serving up the wine. That's what he do. You know, that
initiate this initial introduction for us.
Look, just tell him Dr. Ron sent you. You're in good shape after that. If you mention my name, See, they want me to get the wine. Right. See, that's the thing.
That's what I'm trying to get you to get the wine.
You drink wine? You drink wine?
I do sip.
You do sip? Say, all right, so that's why you writing this number down?
I got it. And ADT.
Thank you. All right, well, look, maybe I'll get Sam to come down here one day and introduce himself.
All right.
You know, look at it. Even the intern starts smiling. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be there that day.
He's a little thirsty.
Yeah, look, she already know. You know, she know what Sam wine's like. You know, she's been there. Look, I don't know who coming on next week. I'm gonna have to play it by ear. If as hot as it is this week, I might stay home. You know, because Chicago got some heat up in here. You know, and like we spoke about on the show today, I don't encourage anybody to get out and do anything crazy, you know, or do anything stupid, you know, because that's not going to accomplish anything. If you really want to be proactive and you want to be effective in the community that we live in, I would say reach out and embrace some young people. You know, I think that's something we can do without a, you know, big whole lot of hoopla. We don't need a rally for that. You know, if somebody calls you for help them. You know, we need to be, you know, in tune with our community and be ready to be proactive, you know, not just reactive, you know. Mm-hmm. And, you know, yeah, Florida's got some issues. There's problems everywhere we go. But we have to think, you know, larger than the problem and begin to start nipping away at what we can do. You know, I mean, people always say, well, what can we do? Embrace a young person. Mm-hmm, you know, help save a life. Yeah. You know,
and if it's the image, let's work on the image.
You know, and then work on that, and then each one reach one. You know, and I think we can have an opportunity to be effective in our own little community, in our own little space. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't get a chance to go over to Village Daily Living Habits this week by National Block Club University. They have a plan. You can find that on my Ask Dr. Ron website, ask-dr-ron. If you go over there, you browse around, you will be able to run into the Village Daily Living Habit. It's a plan. You know, it's something that you can do as a concept to change the world you're in. We got to get out of here. As always, and leaving, I'd like to tell you I love you and ain't nothing you can do about it. I appreciate all my guests. I love you. You know, come back, visit with me again. You know, come back again, Glenda?
Anytime you want.
The next time you got to let the booty cheeks hang out. You know,
I wear my pants down low.
Yeah, they
not outside.
Look, y'all come on back next week, next Tuesday for that. You know, next Tuesday. I want to see what a paratrooper booty look like. You know. Look, we having fun, y'all. We will see y'all next week, Tuesday, 4 o'clock. Don't be late. See you next week. Love you. Stay blessed. Stay out of trouble. Do something positive. Y'all take care.
You've been listening to Ask Dr. Ron. Ask Dr. Ron with Ron Ford on globalnewsforum.com. Tune in again next Tuesday from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. on globalnewsforum.com.